huge news out of the crypto and investing space because it looks like another company may have potentially defrauded investors, failed to pay back millions of dollars, and then moved funds, software, and business resources into another company. Allegedly. And I know, another crypto company, another investor lawsuit, another trust us bro situation. But this one is interesting because the company now under scrutiny is called Tierlock. And Tierlock does not market itself like some random crypto startup. No. Tierlock publicly presents itself as a trust company. Identity verification, fraud prevention, payment controls, secure links, access infrastructure, blockchain-backed audit trails. Basically, every phrase you would expect from a company trying to say, relax, we're the safe ones. But according to allegations tied to a lawsuit involving Payken, the story behind Tierlock may be a lot messier. And the basic question is pretty simple. Was Tierlock built, funded, or scaled using money and technology that was supposed to be somewhere else? That is what we are looking at today. I'm Rebecca Wilson, and this report is about the allegations surrounding Payken, Tierlock, and a disputed liquidity pool lending arrangement now tied to litigation in the Delaware Court of Chancery. And before we go any further, I need to say this clearly. These are allegations. They have not been proven in court. But the allegations are serious because they go directly against the image these companies have been selling publicly. Trust, transparency, security, accountability, all the magic words. But as we have seen many times in crypto, the words on the website are not always the same thing as what is happening behind the scenes. So here is what the press release says. According to public reporting cited in the release, the case involves Society Payken Holdings SPV1 LLC, Payken Holdings SPV1 LLC, and Payken Inc. The dispute centers around an alleged liquidity pool loan default involving Payken and a jointly owned lending vehicle. A public docket listing identifies the matter as Payken Holdings SPV1 LLC versus Payken Inc., case number 2026-0392, filed March 24, 2026, in the Delaware Court of Chancery. Now, that sounds complicated, so let's simplify it. There was allegedly a lending vehicle. That lending vehicle was allegedly connected to Payken's payment processing liquidity pool. And according to the complaint described in the press release, Payken allegedly failed to repay loans that were owed to that vehicle. The amount allegedly owed? Roughly $3.2 million. And look, a company failing to repay $3.2 million is already a problem. But that is not even the wildest part of this story. The really important allegation is what reportedly happened with some of the funds and resources. According to the press release, the complaint alleges that Payken transferred funds from the liquidity pool to affiliate Tierlock Incorporated. And it does not stop there. The complaint also allegedly claims that Payken allowed Tierlock to use Payken intellectual property and software to create a similar payment platform. So, according to the allegations, this was not just money. It was also software. It was intellectual property. It was business resources. That is where this gets much bigger than a normal debt dispute. Because if that is true, then this is not just, hey, we missed a payment. It is not just, sorry, the loan is late. It becomes a much more serious question. Were funds and assets tied to one company's obligations allegedly used to benefit a related company instead? That is the kind of thing investors, lenders, partners, and users should care about. Because when money is raised or borrowed for one purpose and then allegedly moved somewhere else, that is when people start asking uncomfortable questions. Where did the money go? Who approved the transfer? Who benefited? Who was left holding the bag? And did the people involved know what was happening? That is why Tierlock is now under scrutiny. Because Tierlock is not presenting itself as some random side project. It is presenting itself as infrastructure for trust. It talks about identity checks, fraud prevention, payment method verification, Payken's messaging also centers on trust. According to the press release, Payken uses the phrase, "Trust begins with checkout," and describes itself as a blockchain-powered payment platform designed to make transactions more secure, transparent, and trustworthy. So both companies are selling the same general promise. Trust us with the payment. Trust us with the infrastructure. Trust us with the records. Trust us with the money. But the lawsuit allegations create a pretty obvious contradiction, because saying blockchain does not magically answer basic questions about where funds went. Saying transparency does not mean much if stakeholders do not actually understand what is happening between related companies. And saying trust does not fix allegations that money, software, or intellectual property may have been moved in a way that harmed the original lending vehicle. That is the part that makes you go, okay, hold on. So the questions now are basic. Were funds moved from the lending vehicle to Tierlock? Did Tierlock use Payken software or intellectual property? Were lenders, investors, operators, users, and partners told enough about the relationship between Payken and Tierlock? And did stakeholders understand that Tierlock was connected to allegations involving unpaid obligations and affiliate transfers? Now, the press release frames this as an investor protection issue. And honestly, it is easy to see why. Because the alleged pattern is one we have seen before. Money is committed to one thing. The people owed money allegedly do not get paid. Then, a related company allegedly benefits from funds, software, or business assets connected to that original arrangement. Again, these are allegations. But if proven, that kind of pattern raises serious questions about governance, disclosure, and accountability. And this is where Tierlock's market becomes important. Because Tierlock appears to have exposure to the sweepstakes and game room ecosystem. According to the press release, Tierlock's public social media presence describes the company as the #1 business tool for skill-based gaming and sweepstakes. Other public posts reportedly reference game rooms, Tierlock usernames, giveaway matching, promotional rewards, and Tierlock giveaway match activity. Now, why does that matter? Because sweepstakes, amusement, and game room businesses are not exactly the cleanest, simplest category in the world. This is a legally sensitive space. A lot depends on how the business is structured. Payment flows matter. Player access matters. Prize structures matter. Redemption mechanics matter. Disclosures matter. State-by-state compliance matters. And when a company provides identity checks, payment links, access controls, fraud gates, transaction records, or redemption-related systems to that market, it may not just be a neutral software vendor. It may be critical infrastructure. That is what makes the Payken allegations more important. If Tierlock is providing trust infrastructure for high-risk payments or gaming-adjacent businesses, then allegations involving liquidity pool funds, unpaid obligations, software use, and affiliate transfers deserve real scrutiny. Because you are no longer just talking about some back-end tool nobody depends on. You are talking about infrastructure that operators, users, promotional partners, and possibly investors may be relying on. And then there is the crypto angle. Because of course there is a crypto angle. Payken markets blockchain technology as a way to make transactions faster, more secure, and more transparent. Tierlock markets immutable on-chain logging as a way to create audit-ready traceability. And that sounds great. But here's the problem. Blockchain does not automatically make a company trustworthy. An on-chain audit trail does not automatically answer off-chain governance questions. And transparent technology does not mean much if the business structure itself is not transparent. You cannot just say immutable ledger and expect everyone to stop asking where the money went. For crypto-linked payment businesses, moving funds between related entities is not some tiny technical detail. That goes straight to the heart of liquidity, solvency, custody, governance, investor confidence. So if a company is publicly saying, "We are all about trust and transparency," while also facing allegations that funds were moved away from the entity where they were allegedly owed, then the public has every reason to ask what actually happened. And this does not just matter for investors. The press release also raises questions for promotional partners and online communities. That includes any third-party groups that may have helped promote Tierlock inside sweepstakes, amusement, game room, or gaming-adjacent communities. And the question for those partners is uncomfortable. Did they know Tierlock was connected to litigation alleging unpaid debt, liquidity pool transfers, and the use of Payken software or intellectual property? And if they did not know, should they have known? Because if you are helping promote a company as a trusted tool in a risky market, people are going to ask whether you did your homework. That is especially true when the product is tied to payments, access, verification, fraud prevention, or user trust. In other words, this is not just about Payken, and it is not just about Tierlock. It is also about everyone who helped introduce, amplify, or rely on Tierlock, while these questions were sitting in the background. So where does that leave operators, users, lenders, investors, and promotional communities? It leaves them with a risk question. If you rely on Tierlock for identity verification, fraud prevention, payment-related infrastructure, access control, or blockchain-backed records, then the Payken allegations are not some random legal footnote. They go directly to whether Tierlock's public trust story is backed by transparent conduct. And that is really the core of this entire story. Because companies in this space love to market trust. They love to talk about security. They love to talk about transparency. They love to talk about blockchain. But at the end of the day, the question is not what the website says. The question is, what happened to the money?